Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Here we are. It is the moron and me.
And me.
And me, whoever. Hey, so had a lot of great feedback from the initial show. Obviously, Davey and I have been talking sports for years, just amongst each other and all that good stuff. And, to bring the show to you guys has been an honor and a pleasure because it's just fun. And obviously, the first show, we had to get through some jitters or whatnot, but it is what it is, and we've got a lot of feedback from you guys. We've had a lot of opportunities to have some, corrective criticism or collective, whatever we want to call it. Some bashing of me, I guess, but more importantly, we've had some opportunities to actually interact with you guys. So, hey, we're excited for today. And Davey, what you got to say today?
Hey, man, it's like I said. I did have the jitters at the beginning. I'm feeling a lot better now. Feel a little more relaxed and doing what I'm doing. Like I said, like you say, we're here to talk with you about the sports. We're here to basically answer your questions, give you, our opinions, some of our knowledge, some limited, some expanded, but, we're always ready to talk to you guys. And, we want this show to be about you. We'll bring up the topics and then, you fire questions and we can do our best to try to answer them. But yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling real good today. So, let's move on. And
all of the knowledge. If we focused on one sport or the other, it wouldn't be that fun. Because to be honest with you, Davey and I speak, and a lot of times we talk about just random stuff. Like it'll really come up, like when he goes disc golfing or just so you know, I'm not intentionally saying disc golfing. I just say it, and I apologize. But anyhow, yeah. So as we go, let's start moving the show forward. We have a couple guys on here viewing right now, and I'm appreciative of everybody's support. And I don't know who is. As I start to, as the system starts to flow a little freer, it'll pop up and populate more quickly and rapidly. And I'm working on that. But well, hey, let's delve into our first subject. I'm gonna look this up because I know as we had a couple comments on the screen that I didn't see, and I would have liked to, because we could have kind of spoke on it while we were at the show last time. We were kind of searching for stuff to speak about. Georgie had said, asked a question, and he asked,
Georgie, who would Georgie be?
Georgie Boyd, George Lodick, your brother. No,
that's right. Well, I'm just saying.
Oh, you want me to tell it to the fans?
Absolutely, to our avid viewers.
Avid viewers. You know what, Dave? I'll tell you what, man. Already, you are sounding like a genius. Avid
viewers.
Look, I'm going to look that up here in a moment as well. I'm not sure what avid means. That's a joke. Anyhow, hey, George was talking about systems, right? And he said, talk about systems. Patriots haven't had a low pick that they didn't trade for in years, but they consistently field a championship caliber team, the right player, not the best available, right? So when you start talking about systems, and obviously I think that over the last decade plus, right, or 17 years if you want to be kind of precise, the Patriots have had that system. There are a few other teams that have systems in place like that I can think of, but what is it about the Patriots that actually works, and why does it work?
Well, let me say, first off, the best thing about any system is winning. If you win, your system is, number one, successful. But number two, by winning, one of the key things is you don't have to overpay to get good players. And it's identifying what good players are in your system. Meaning you don't have to go out and you don't have to sign the big name free agents, the Mario Williams, the Randy Mosses, all the high quality free agents. It's identifying the solid players, those average to above average players that fit into your scheme and are solid contributors on a day in and day out basis. Those are the ones that you go after. Those are the ones who really make a team. Not the individual stars, but the actual
team.
So,
before you continue, let me ask you this, and it's funny you mentioned the Randy Mosses and stuff when you're talking about New England, right? But isn't it fair to say that when you have that star-studded player, that guy who can go out and get a $100 million contract or whatever the case may be, they're willing to take less money to go to a winning team? I mean, we've seen it with several, even back when Buffalo was a dominant team. People leave and come to that team because they can win and they don't have to get paid top dollar because they're being fit into a scheme that is proven to be a winning system.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, again, New England is the perfect example. Again, you look at a team like Buffalo that has to overspend, and it's great that you make a splash, but you end up hurting the team as a whole. When you have to make that kind of splash, make that financial commitment to one player, you are hurting your team as a whole. You're not allowing for the rest of the team to come around that player. Whereas in New England, for example, okay, it's identifying the fact that, okay, when Drew Bledsoe reached his plateau and he started to decline, okay, they got rid of him. They had Tom Brady. Granted, they had a quarterback in Tom Brady, but even then, they did not really know what they had in Tom Brady. They just knew that Drew Bledsoe was not going to get them beyond where they were. Mm-hmm. So they cut that man loose. And that is the thing that I find so impressive about New England is they can plug in anybody. He could be a cast-off from any team, and they could plug him into that system, into hit whatever that philosophy that Bill Belichick has, and he knows exactly what to target, what to pinpoint, and it works. Just like this year, when you watch the Super Bowl from last year, he pinpointed that had things gone a certain way, if they did not get a secondary or try to go out and sign and maybe overspend a little bit to get a quality cornerback like Stephon Gilmore, really beef up their back end a little bit, that they were one or two plays away from being blown out of that Super Bowl. So they realized what they had to do this offseason. Did they overspend a little bit maybe for Stephon? Absolutely, because I don't think Stephon Gilmore is all that of a fantastic man-to-man cover player.
Well, we talk about this regularly, and I differ. Not the fact that I'm pro Stephon Gilmore, but I believe there's very few in the history of the NFL that are just straight up great cover corners. I think that defensive schemes always dictate how good the cornerback is. If you can put pressure on the quarterback, then your corners are hopeful for those bad or underthrown balls, overthrown balls. I mean, hell, even last year playing against Seattle, what's his name? Sherman gets an interception in the end zone. Bad route, bad throw. He's there, but it's all out of position. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, that's just a point in contention with cornerback. But you're right. Now let me ask you this, because I refuse ever to have any segment of any show concentrate on the Patriots for any prolonged period of time ever, right? But I mean, I would love to be in a room with Belichick as the season starts, when they start getting into mini camp and training camp. I'd love to listen to him, because he is by far, to me, in my lifetime anyway. I don't know, back with Lambeau and all that stuff, or Lombardi, excuse me, but Lambeau as well, whatever. Anyhow, I'd love to be in the room and just hear him speak. But what other teams? I mean, I think that there's time frames, eras, so to speak. You have the 49er era. You go back, and those systems played well. I mean, but they had multiple coaches.
Sure.
Why? I mean, what other teams that you can see over the past 20 years are close to those systems, that Patriots type system?
Well, I think Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh only because consistently they always contend defensively. First off, I think Pittsburgh because they are probably one of the most consistent franchises in the NFL. I mean, how many head coaches have they had?
Right.
They had Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, and Mike Tomlin, and that's been their coaches since I was born.
Yeah.
That's 48 years.
Yeah.
So, in that sense, they are the model of consistency. Their style of play, from defense to offense, no matter who they have, with Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, Franco Harris, Lynn Swann, John Stallworth, all those players, all those types of players. Defense has always come first in Pittsburgh. It's what the defense does that dictates that game. So without
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yes, I know. Yes, and Dallas does that. They have a big play offense, but again, it is all dictated by the run. The run sets up everything in Dallas, and then their defense. They tried to play good four-man front defense, get pressure on the quarterback, have their linebackers and corners play at a high level. And again, I agree with you 100% when you say that, a good pass rush makes cornerbacks looks good, because the simple fact is, in Buffalo 3 years ago when Jim Schwartz was our defensive coordinator, okay, that basically wrote Stephon Gilmore his paycheck this free agent season, because our defense was a top 5 defense. And Stephon Gilmore looked like almost a second coming of Darrelle Revis. He played that solid. So, not that I would say that he is today.
Yeah,
but
we'll see. I mean, I'm really interested in seeing his play as
absolutely
as a guy on defense that likes to attack the quarterback and do that stuff. But neither here nor there. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. Like, Pittsburgh is the team that I would say. I mean, and you used a good point, right? When we made mention of the coaches, you look at New England. Belichick's been the coach as long as Brady's been the quarterback, and they've been very good together. Not just the coach quarterback, but the consistency of the team, the vision and the view and what they want. And Chad Johnson, Ocho Cinco, made a comment not too long ago. He was on ESPN, and it was speaking that Belichick didn't care that Brady was the GOAT. He treated him the same, and he berated him and yelled at him just as well as he would yell at anybody else. And Chad had said that was the first day of practice for him, and he thought to himself, being the superstar that he was, if he's coming into a team where the guy is getting crushed, then he better step up his game, and that goes to the discipline of the team as well. I mean, excluding Hernandez, obviously, because kind of did some wrong stuff, I guess. But what about you say Pittsburgh? We talk about Pittsburgh. Their defense always comes first, and I can remember I have plenty of friends that are Steelers fans, and the conversation is always about their defense. Then I actually looked into the Steelers a couple years back. Their first draft choice every year for like the longest time was a linebacker. And it didn't matter if it was the 23rd, 32nd pick. It didn't matter what the pick was. It was a linebacker. And whether it was a great linebacker or not, it was a linebacker. And then they became Pro Bowlers. And you think about it, I mean, obviously that was Dick's defense for so long before he run out and did something else. But, man, how consistent is that? And that kind of speaks to exactly – point blank to what you're saying. So for that, you don't get a moron check, right? Because you are speaking about legitimate things. I do. Let me ask you this. Seattle, under Pete Carroll, has been consistent. Not just, I mean, and you look at that team itself. I'm not a big Seattle fan. The Legion of Boom is great. I think they have great defenders, but is there something about, and I'm bringing him up specifically, but is there something about the coach, general manager relationship that really matters?
You know what? Absolutely. I'm not a big fan of the Seattle Seahawks myself. I think, I think their bandwagon came about 5 years ago when they actually started to become good.
Yeah.
But the one thing, Pete Carroll, basically when he first came into coaching for the Jets, okay, very rough time. I don't think he was young, energetic, but I don't think he was ready to handle the NFL and its players. He came back, seasoned himself in USC, came back, and he decided, that he was going to bring that youth enthusiasm to coaching with his players. So, and the coach and the general manager, they both have to have the same vision. They both have to have the same focus on what the one needs and what the other one can give him, and you also have to have an owner who's willing to step out of the way to allow the football people to do those things.
Right.
And it's kind of like what I look at with the 90s Buffalo Bills. And like, I don't know, I've never been in the locker room. I never had any conversations with anybody, but if you ask me about Marv Levy as a coach, he probably wasn't the kind of guy who stood up at front of the chalkboard and drew all the X's and O's and did all this stuff. He probably had his defensive coordinators and all that stuff do that. But what I really liked about Marv Levy is what he could do is he was a general in the locker room where he could actually will that team, whether it would be through speeches, whether it would just be through, sheer determination, where he could will his team time and again to the Super Bowl, to whatever. I mean, they were never out of a game. No matter what. He made them believe more about themselves as men than probably quite a few coaches in the NFL ever did. But the thing about Marv and Bill Polian is they had that relationship too, and I think I look at the Bills today and, everybody's upset about these trades and stuff like that had just happened. But I really believe that the coach and general manager now are both on the same page. And what's nice about it is they've both been given 5 years to put something together. Right. And if you just if everybody just backs off and allows them to implement their plan, okay, Rex Ryan, like last year, the things that he was doing, he was coaching for his job. He wasn't coaching for this year. He was coaching for then and there. That's why you saw a lot of the dumb roster decisions that people couldn't understand. But he was trying to win then and now because he knew he was not going to have another chance if he didn't.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, sorry. No, but what you're saying, and I like their matchup or the way they mesh. I can see it just based. I mean, I can see it based on the owner, Terry Pegula saying, "Hey, look, you're going to be the spokesperson for us there, Mr. McDermott, and you general manager, do the business side." And that's the funny part to me is that even in certain sports, right, and we can cross into hockey where we talk about one of the all-time greatest hockey players, Steve Yzerman, leaves Detroit, becomes the general manager for Tampa, and he's created a pretty decent team. Obviously, the coaching is good, whatever the case may be, but I think he has the business side down and the players, so he understands how to fill that role. Most general managers across all sports were never an actual player of the sport. So they understand the business. They can talk about salary caps. They can talk about lengths and terms, and they can give you the good things. If they're not going down and having those conversations with the coaches to say, "Hey, listen, what is your need? What can I do?" And I think, and I got to be honest, like I said, I've never been in the locker room, but you got to believe that coach is saying, "Listen, I need a linebacker. I don't care if it's this guy or this guy." I'm sure they list down the people who they'd like to have, and they probably seek them. But whatever the case may be, I think that relationship has to be, hey, businessman, figure out how to work the cap, bargain, do what it is that you have to do to sell this guy on this team. I mean, our play obviously is showing something, but do what you have to do. Meanwhile, this is who I need because I'm going to put them on the field and make them play. And that's something that when you don't have that, like I think, I think there's one anomaly. I think there's one team that does not matter to, and we're going to go talk specifically about the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, you can look at the old Al Davis and you can look at that stuff, but I don't. The Raiders did not win a championship in my lifetime, right? That's just not what they did. Right. But Jerry Jones has had quite a few, like a couple, and then three, right? Three since the '90s, so three since the '90s, and some good progress into the playoffs. Obviously, not winning a game with Romo, but they had the team to compete and. So I think that would be the one person that I would say is not the case. And that's not the case.
Right. Okay. No, actually, you're absolutely right. Dan Snyder is just the exact polar opposite of that. He wants to be Jerry Jones, and he knows nothing about football. Right. And again, and I'll go back to the Bills only because again, they're my go-to because I know so much about them. You never, ever, ever want to ever put a marketing manager in charge of your football team. He can sell ice cubes to Eskimos. He can sell sweets to companies all around. He knows nothing about football. He knows nothing about football players. He knows nothing about football mentality. He wants to be a jock. He wants to be the guy in the locker room talking to his buddies, doing this, doing that. Dude should be out selling billboards or selling seats or doing whatever he does. He has no business in a football locker room whatsoever. He knows nothing about it. And that's been proven since 2000. Okay,
hey, so we're gonna slide off this topic because it's been over 15 minutes, and I want to stay on time. But so the next topic that we're going to discuss is going to be from Fred Meyer, and Fred Meyer writes a Mayweather versus McGregor. Not so much who will win, but is it truly an evolution of combat sports? I'm going to let you start with this because I can have some redemption. No, I'm
Okay,
kidding.
well, no, I'll start with it. I will start with it, and I will go with the disclaimer that I have not watched boxing since Mike Tyson. Okay, I take that back. I did watch the last Mayweather-Pacquiao fight, and I would have rather paid $70 to watch Dancing with the Stars because that's pretty much all Mayweather does, is he likes to punch once and dance for 3 minutes. I am in no way a boxing enthusiast, boxing connoisseur, I don't know much about it. I used to love watching Tyson fight. I thought he was just a machine. About the evolution of this sport, I am extremely interested to find out exactly how you can rein Conor McGregor in. I want to actually see Conor McGregor keep his tendencies for UFC or MMA or whatever it's called, whatever he does, in check and actually be able to stand there and go toe-to-toe or box without wanting to resort to leg sweeps or, arm bars or that's what I'm interested in finding out. I want to actually see what he will do. I know what Floyd Mayweather is going to do. He'll punch once and run around the ring and try to stay away and not get hit because that's just Floyd Mayweather.
Well, okay. So what I'll do is I'm going to answer the question real quick, and I would say revolutionizing the evolution of boxing is almost non-existent. I mean, truly, if you were to think about the last real American boxer, I mean, Mayweather obviously is there, but I mean, the Klitschko brothers have been dominating the heavyweight world, which to me is boxing. I mean, I love the lightweight guys. Don't get me wrong. That's actually my favorite part to watch. When Tyson fought, obviously that was always great to watch. But boxing is almost, punch, counter, hug, hold, and move on. And it's prolonged. There's knockouts here and there, and they show some highlights. But MMA is definitely the new, 90s boxing, 80s boxing, where it is the hype's there, you're talking about combat sport. What more combat is there? I mean, unless you go into the Kumite or whatever it is back in blood sport, you can find, Jean-Claude Van Damme, but I don't even know if that exists in real life. But yeah, I think it's definitely the new thing. I mean, obviously it's been going on for some years now, so it's not like right here, but I think boxing's almost irrelevant. Now, talking about McGregor versus Mayweather, I'm really interested. Now I'm hopeful. I detest Mayweather. You know what I mean? I don't like him. I haven't liked him since. I mean, he was 37-0, and I started to dislike him. But I think everybody doesn't. I mean, there's not a lot of people that like the good guy, the champion. That's why so many people dislike the Patriots that aren't bandwagon fans. It's easy to like or dislike the guy who's always going to win. My favorite boxer of all time is Roy Jones Jr. I love watching that guy box. But I would tell you this. Floyd Mayweather, regardless of what you get, you have probably one of the best, and you almost got to say the best if by comparison, because he's 49-0 boxers that ever existed. And it's not just about his knockout power, because he doesn't have any, but his ability to counter, his ability to defend, his ability to miss getting hit. I mean, that's the point. The only time you can lose in a boxing match is if you're hit, and he doesn't get hit. He's fast as hell, and that's crazy to me. But I'm hopeful. I think, McGregor is he's 28-3, 24-3, 24-4, something like that. His record in MMA is nowhere near that of Mayweather. His knockout ratio is significantly high though. He's 21-3, and 18 have been won by knockout and 3 by submission. So I don't think he's going to have a problem boxing. I don't think the tendencies will get in there because he's actually a stand-up fighter more so. But I don't see – he's got a lot of power. Mayweather has no power, and Mayweather's dodged a lot of fights over the last 25, 30 fights. I mean, he's fighting people towards the end. But look, win or lose, the fact that they're out marketing their ass off shows me that I don't want to watch the fight. And I say, I mean, the way they're doing it, I've never seen so much hype for a fight in my life. Even when some of the best boxers, I mean, even when you had Lennox Lewis fighting Tyson, or even well before, even Jones Jr. fighting some of the better fighters that he fought, there was not a tour of every interview and everything, and they're just standing there talking nonsense and noise, giving microphones and fur coats and just silly shit. But it's selling. It's selling, and people are digging it. I don't. I think it's a run for some money. Floyd's got some issues with the IRS. McGregor will never get paid that much in the MMA. This is for them. It's watching us be dumb to watch the fight now.
Sure.
Find me a fire stick that I'm going to pay for it. I'm on it all night long. You know what I mean? Because I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful to see that one right. I'm hopeful that one right catches him on the jaw and Mayweather goes down. Because I believe if McGregor can hit him, he can fall. That's just my opinion.
Sure. No, I agree with you. Like I said, you like Roy Jones. My favorite fighters were Sugar Ray Leonard. Watching Sugar Ray Leonard fight Thomas Hearns and Sugar Ray Leonard and Marvin Hagler. Those fights, those were fights. You would see 12 rounds of two guys just that not running away from each other, just taking each other's shots, left, right, continuously. And it was like a war of attrition. And, they'd both be standing at the end, and it was like that was fighting. That was like watching Rocky 1, 2, 3, 4, because that's what it was. It was 12 rounds of just pure fight. It wasn't chase run. It was boxing. Tyson was great because you could watch around and still have the rest of your night, because it would take you you'd spend 3 hours watching the prelims for a 1-minute fight, but it was just great to watch. And so,
I agree that the reason why, and that's why I talk about Jones Jr. so much, is because his ability to close out a fight was spectacular. The fact that he could take it 10 rounds, but it was on his decision. He played around, he did his dance, and he was a showboat, but it was amazing because he'd have his hands down, people would be throwing punch after punch after punch, can't land him for anything. And then when Roy got tired of doing that because he was there to please and entertain, he said, "Time's up." And he would knock that dude out. And it was like, man, that's crazy that you just called it. Like, it's just like Babe Ruth's home run. You can play the game so much to understand that I'm going to put him on his button. And that's why, obviously I didn't get to see those guys. I saw Sugar Ray a little bit. Very, very much towards the end of his career, just like a Foreman. I saw Foreman. By the time I saw Foreman, he was well past the Ali days.
Right, and that's the same with me. I saw the tail end of Muhammad Ali. Now, if you talk to anybody from any generation, they're going to look at their fighters and say, these guys were great. Because that's what they grew up with, and that's what we. And again, I've seen MMA on ESPN. But I don't follow it enough to, I don't know what kind of fighter McGregor is. I don't know, I'm just so again, my knowledge of MMA is very limited. Boxing, not the greatest, but I can compare to who I can compare to. And I've seen Floyd Mayweather fight, and he actually did better in WWE, I thought, than he probably did in the boxing ring. He took the big show to school. But
you talk about it. When you talk boxing, so first and foremost, when you're talking about boxing, most time people are talking about knockout power. That's what people. Sure. I don't think there's not many people that want to watch 12 rounds of technical boxing. They want to see the 5th round, 6th round knockout, some good fight in the beginning, but they want to see someone get laid out on the ground. And Mayweather does not offer that. Mayweather has never had speed. Power. Speed is unreal. So what I would say is the thing about Mayweather that's so impressive. His training regimen and all that good stuff is great. But the fact is, he has a game plan, and regardless of how the other boxers fighting in the ring, he does not leave that game plan. And it's, very disciplined. He's very defensive. He is not an offensive boxer, but he is a counterpunch boxer. And it's hard. That's why he's 49-0. I don't think Tyson, even if Tyson wouldn't have went to jail and all that stuff, I don't think Tyson would have ended his career undefeated. I think that he would have fought much longer and stayed in better shape and was able to have a better record. But towards the end, it's just you got two humongous dudes that have weight, speed, and power, and someone's going to get knocked out. So we're hopeful. The bottom line is I'm hopeful that McGregor knocks him out. But to be truthful, I wouldn't spend $1 on it because I don't want to lose it because you can't. How many times? Even Ricky Hatton and Pacquiao. There's been, name the folks going down that people are like, this is the time Mayweather's going to get his butt whooped. He don't, because it's he's that good.
Oh, like you say, if he would have fought Pacquiao maybe 5-7 years earlier,
Oh yeah, yeah.
it might have been a different story. But
I think it would have been a much different story. I think that would have been because at that time Pacquiao was not only fast, his power was crazy. He could throw 180 punches like in 2 minutes. You know what I mean? But he was hitting them, hitting people with some significant power. But again, that was the steroid conversation. Floyd was like, "Listen, you're on steroids. I really don't want to fight you because you'll probably knock me out," which I could understand. But anyhow, so here we are at 7:30. We kind of did. Yeah, see, but hey, Fred. So Fred writes 49-0, 26 KOs, and that's obviously more than half of his victories have been from a knockout. I got to tell you, I think all 26 were before 1995. You know what I mean? Like when you go back and I mean, it's his early years. He had a little bit of power, but I don't even remember seeing Mayweather. I can't remember the last time I seen Mayweather knock someone down. You know what I mean? And I'm talking about. I mean, I know it just happened. He did. I'm saying it as sarcasm, but I just don't see him knocking McGregor down. I think McGregor can take a punch, regardless if he's been getting beat up. He can take a punch. Where a lot of the guys that he's fighting, they're taking weak punches and they're fine. But Mayweather doesn't have the strength to put him on his butt.
Yeah. Again, like I said, I'm leaving that one up to you. I've never seen McGregor fight. Like I said, I saw Pacquiao, Mayweather, and I just saw a lot of dancing. I was waiting for the chick from Dancing with the Stars to come down, and But again, that's just my opinion.
No, I got you. Well, it's mine. I just know from a technical side he's a great boxer. But anyway,
yeah.
I'm looking for the next subject because what I wanted to do was touch on it. And what was your friend's name that sent that message? I don't have it. I can't find it on the phone.
Oh, you mean Nick?
Yeah, Nick sent a message early on asking about the James Harden humongous, absolutely ridiculous contract, right? But I got to tell you, so the question was easy for me because when I saw it, I was amazed because Stephen Curry just signed a humongous contract, and they're both really the best players in the game. I mean, you could have the argument with obviously LeBron James being in the conversation because he's probably better than all of them. Not the same amount of money he's making because he didn't sign that big deal yet. And there's some other folks. The problem I have with it, well, it's not a problem. I have a problem with sports athletes getting paid what they get paid, right? Period. But you look at the amount of money that's being driven into the sport itself. You have to say, look, owner of whatever team, if you don't pay these guys that much, how do you not call that ridiculous? That's an unjust system completely. I mean, if you were to think that Derek Jeter and a couple other guys just bought the Marlins or are in the process of buying the Marlins for $1.2 billion, right? So I'm spending $1.2 billion on a team. The idea is I'm going to make more than $1.2 billion, right? So if my payroll is less than $200 million, that 1.2, how much money am I bringing in? As the owner of a team, and that's just absolutely ludicrous to me.
Well, again, look at football. The salary that is paid to 53 players on a team never comes out of the owner's pocket.
Right.
The owner doesn't pay that. The revenue from all 16 games, home gate, television, everything that pays for your salary. Everything that is made on top of that is the owner's. So they make hand over fist. They don't even have to write a check.
No.
Honestly, they don't, because it's not coming out of their bank account.
Residual income, man.
That's it. And then these guys, on top of it, the stars have their lucrative marketing deals, endorsements, this and that. So, a guy like LeBron James, gets paid, I don't know what his contract is a year, whatever it is, $25 million. I don't know, whatever it's going to be, whatever that contract he's making on an NBA team, multiply it by 4 from his marketing deal. So this guy, it astounds me the amount of money. And then you have football players turn around and say, well, we want to get paid like NBA players. And that's fine, and that's good.
Well, when you look at the disparity of contracts, right? I mean, so you talk about the 4 major sports in America, which obviously basketball, football, hockey, and baseball, right? And a lot of people don't want to say hockey is a major sport because of the viewership, but it is a major sport, right? I mean, hockey players get paid next to really nothing. and it's ridiculous, but it's fine. I mean, I playing hockey to me is harder than any other sport that you're playing because it's constant. Yeah, you get off the ice, but you get back on the ice, and it's for 3 periods, and I get it, but I'll tell you the amount of – I mean, look at the guy – the money doesn't equal the sport. And I said it because a guy gets a cramp in basketball, he's carried off the court, and everybody makes a big deal of it. A guy loses 3 teeth, cuts his jugular vein, bleeding all over the place. He stitches up, comes back out and plays. Well, the jugular didn't happen that way. But you know what I'm saying? Is they're getting hit in the face with the puck. They're doing all these crazy things, but they're still playing. So I don't think there's correlation from body damage. Obviously, pit football is very physical. You got a bunch of big guys out there hitting each other at unbelievable speeds. Amazingly, because they shouldn't even be able to go that fast as big as they are. And the thing that frustrates me the most is that their contracts aren't guaranteed. This is guaranteed. This is not guaranteed. We cut you. You don't get nothing. All that stuff. The best system that exists is baseball. I mean, baseball truly has it down the proper way. I mean, I think that the Major League Baseball Players Association went out and did some good stuff. They actually spoke with the owners. They spoke with management. They spoke with everybody they had to and worked out a deal that is feasible. I mean, that works out for every player. League minimum went back when I was in high school and graduating, when it came down to see the Blue Jays down here for a little bit. The league minimum at that time was like $235 or something like that. If you're a rookie and you're just not that good, you're getting $235. That's fine. You're not getting many players that are playing for league minimal at this point in time. So, I mean, I just don't understand. And, you know, George makes a good point right there. There are 12 players on a basketball team, big money over a few people. So, right. Yeah, but now, you know, I think it was last year, D. Williams for Cleveland. He came in, got paid more than any starter pretty much on Cleveland's basketball team, besides, I think, LeBron James, or very close to that contract. And he sat on the bench. He was the 6th man. Right. Because when they raised that salary cap finally, which is, I'm glad they did. But what they did was, what the general managers and owners did was they overpaid players that weren't really worth that, but that was a cog, so to speak, in the system, and they allowed them to fit. But they're paying them. I mean, I can't remember the guy's name, and it's baffling to me. He got paid $80 million, and it's just, I was like, he's a number 7 or 8 on a court, and maybe he's the 3rd guy as a power forward, and you're like.
If I could just jump in for 1 second, Jeff, and there was something else that George had wrote on the screen a little while ago, talking about the supermax contracts that these players have in basketball, and what's going to kill the sport of basketball is the supermax contracts that these players sign, but they're now picking and choosing who they want to play with, what teams they want to play with, and who they don't want to play with. And when a player can start to dictate where he goes, who he plays with, who he signs with, the sport is over. Mm-hmm. Okay, you cannot have a competitive league when you have 5 dream teams and the rest of them are – nobody's going to go watch a team like the Milwaukee Bucks when they can't or don't want to pay supermax contracts for 10 guys on a team. So if I want to go play in Phoenix and I want to take this guy with me, this guy with me, and this guy with me, and otherwise we're not going to play basketball. You know, that's what's going to happen. And supermax contracts and picking and choosing what team you decide you want to play for is going to kill this sport. You know, I remember something, you know, talking about contract prices. I remember when Jim Kelly signed with the Buffalo Bills in 1986. And in 1986, his contract was worth $8 million. At that time, he was the highest paid quarterback in the NFL when he signed in 1986. Now your 3rd string quarterback almost makes that much money to sit on the bench, or your backup, not your 3rd string, but your backup. Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, the amounts that, and again, you know,
but I don't,
what I'm saying is I don't, people deserve to get paid. And if us, the general public, want to go to sports and we're willing to pay the ticket prices that are, you know, that we're made to pay, you know, players should get a piece of the pie. You know, I agree with that. And if certain players worth X amount of dollars and the owner wants to pay him X amount of dollars, I have no problem with free enterprise, free market. If that's what the going rate is, I have no problem with anybody getting paid. But my argument is this: if a football player wants to make as much as a basketball player, then you play 168 games or 132 games or whatever they play. Okay. Okay,
hockey,
or
same thing as hockey.
Well, whatever. So, again, you know, hockey players play 82.
82.
So you play 82 games in football. Let's start talking about you getting paid a little more.
Yeah, but I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. Not that ideology. And I only said it because so basketball, especially in 2017, you contact, you get fouled. You contact, you get fouled. You get a technical foul. You're ejected from the game. There's more people getting kicked out of basketball games in a day than in a football season, right? Which is ridiculous. But I'll tell you, the level of, look, any sport, any four of them sports, I don't care which one. I mean, there are ones that are worse on your body. I get it, from a physical beating. You know, football is that sport. You couldn't do that 82 times a year. But, it's just not going to happen. But more importantly, and it's tough because I've done the same thing. You're talking about Jim Kelly's $8 million contract. I know I made comment to you not too long ago about watching some of these guys play basketball or any sport, and you think about the guys that were great. You think about Michael Jordan. Forget about his Nike contract and everything else that's extra, right? You just talk about his basketball contract. I would say I think the most out of all the money he made in his career, I think that there's probably about a good 50% of the NBA right now playing that is making that much this year. You know what I mean? It's like he didn't get paid a lot. So talk about Jim Kelly and players from those days. Obviously, that's the positive thing, I think, for me from a free market perspective. I agree. And if you were to, I don't have the stats in front of me, and I probably could have prepared for this a little bit better by saying, hey, let me look and see how much money annually every major sport team brings in. Let's see how much money annually are paid to their players. And that would be a little bit of better of a conversation for cost comparison. But sure. I would tell you, I think that George made a great point. You capitalized on that point because it makes a lot of sense. How is it that you're going to let someone choose this team, choose that team, and then you have, what you have right now is Golden State, Cleveland, Golden State, Cleveland, Golden State, Cleveland. It's the last three NBA championships games. I don't think that's going to happen again. And I think Golden State and Cleveland will be there next year. You might have one team that might compete, but to be honest with you, there's nobody else out there. So you can't have a fair sport. And I'm going to tell you, Silver's sitting up there saying all these guys in basketball, which, by the way, he's correct in one aspect, they're all professional players. But when you have seven, you're starting five and then two off the bench that can dominate, your superstar, your one or two, there's no competition. And then it's frustrating. But you're right. But I think that they will revamp the basketball rules. Now that I think they put the cart in front of the horse a little bit when they decided, hey, let's open this salary cap. Let's open it up a little bit and move forward without thinking that, hey, we got to stop the Cleveland Cavaliers dynasty. We got to stop Golden State. But Golden State's a little bit of a different thing. KD came to Golden State. The rest of those guys were all from Golden State.
I got you.
That's a little bit. But you got the Boston Celtics that did it, the Cleveland Cavaliers that did it, Miami. Hell, but way back in the day, Phoenix did it by bringing in Charles Barkley and putting. It's a constant, but there has to be a control factor. And Jason said no trade clauses allowed. I agree. I don't think you should have a no trading clause in your contract. Maybe that's the selling point for someone to get there to say, I want to stay in LA, I want to stay in Miami, I don't want to go to Buffalo, whatever. You don't get that choice if for business, because everybody always says, I understand it's a business. Well, if you understand it's a business, then pack your bags and get to Buffalo, Milwaukee, Chicago, wherever it is that you don't want to go. It's part of the business, buddy.
Right. And like George also said something about the life expectancy of a pro basketball, or not a life expectancy, but a career expectancy in basketball to football.
Yeah.
Well, it could be the life expectancy too, but the one thing that I'll say is this, football players will go and they will play hurt, they will play injured, they will do this. Basketball players sprain their ankle, they sit for a month, okay, and they still get paid. The thing about football players, which needs to be changed, is if a basketball player's contract is fully guaranteed, I believe a football player's contract should be fully guaranteed. Not guaranteed to injury, not guaranteed for 2 years. Not I think if a football or any sports, any professional athlete has the opportunity to be cut without a thought, okay, they should have a guarantee in their contract. That their contract should be guaranteed up until the time they get cut. They shouldn't be guaranteed for 2 years, and then we can decide to let you go, or we should decide to do this. If you sign a contract to get paid a certain amount of money, that certain amount of money should be good for the duration of the contract. And that's how NFL owners and that's how owners in general get around salary caps and so on and so forth. It's a soft cap because, we'll pay him this much for 2 years, so it counts this much towards our cap, and then we'll prorate it out the end if we decide to pick up his option for that year, if we decide to pick up his option for the other year.
All right.
And so –
hey,
okay.
I'm cutting you off, man, and I'm cutting you off not because.
All right, sorry, I'm done.
I'm counting down time. I'm trying to stay on that 15-minute.
I know you are.
So we're going into the fourth and final segment of the show. We've talked thus far for you guys that are just joining us, so you don't have to go all the way to the beginning. We've talked about the systems in the NFL and certain systems in sports in general of how they can stay great and stay consistent without having to do a lot of things that people are doing, i.e. the Detroit Lions who went out there and first round draft choice and wasted all that stuff away, vice the Pittsburgh Steelers and the New England Patriots. We talked about that. We talked about the Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather upcoming fight. Not so much about who wins, who loses, but more so is the evolution from combat sport. Is MMA taken over, or have they already taken over, which they pretty much have. And then we just talked about something with that guy over there across the screen. I don't remember what we talked about. It was seconds ago. Now, and we talked about the James Harden contract, and then just the different caps and what things did. That was actually a pretty good segment, if you ask me, because I think we actually went a little bit off, but we talked about a lot of good stuff there that wasn't really going to be covered. Before we actually go into this last segment, I know Jason was letting you know that Ron Darby picked off Tyrod Taylor, but that's great news, because obviously it's not because Ron Darby's great. It's because Buffalo has a great quarterback in Tyrod Taylor. So let's what I would like to do for the last segment is, I know David had expressed some interest based on the fact that here we are, it's August 17th. We're moving towards fantasy football time, fantasy football drafting. David wants to let everybody know that he's got some fantasy football knowledge, and I would like to actually have a conversation regarding this. I do want to offer the time for any comments to be made or any questions that anybody has right now. Well, before we do actually start getting into the fantasy football side.
As I see Jason LOL on the screen, I would love to say I'd love to have Jason chime in with any tips or pointers he might want to try to give me this year. But anyway,
I think he was LOLing at the Tyrod Taylor comment, but
he's probably LOLing at my fantasy knowledge. But
of course,
maybe
all right. Well, 2 weeks. So, hey, let's, instead of talking about a whole overview of fantasy football, because we obviously don't have the time, let's delve into something that I don't know if you researched before you came on. So I'm going to kind of surprise you with the topic. I didn't. But let's talk about wide receivers, if that's all right with you.
We can talk about it.
Yeah, I got it. So what I'm going to let you do is I'm going to let you start right now.
What do you want me to start?
I don't know. Just talk about wide receivers. I mean, so what are your? I mean, obviously, if you were to think about starters, you're going to say, Julio Jones is a great guy, but everybody's reporting that he's digressing, or he's about to regress and all that good stuff, or whatever the hell they say it. But so just tell me who you think are the guys that you should probably look at picking up in the first couple rounds of the draft, and who do you think that you should avoid completely? And while you do that, I'm going to zoom in on you so you can talk.
Well, okay, first of all, thanks, Jeff. First of all, the wide receiver position is one that I value probably in my PPR league, which I've been doing for 25 years with my cousins, brothers, and friends. The wide receiver position is one that I least value, only because, and I say this with the exception of the top 3 or 4 wide receivers, that being Antonio Brown, Odell Beckham Jr., Julio Jones. Who else? I couldn't even begin to tell you. In my case, in my league, most wide receivers, it's flavor of the week. Okay, it's pretty much a crapshoot when it comes to wide receivers. Okay, every wide receiver on any given day can have a big game. Any wide receiver can step up and do the job and fill the role and could be your quarterback's favorite target. So when it comes to wide receivers and the like, you know, if you are picking in a snake draft, which is a 1 through 12, 12 through 1 format, if you do not get the top wide receivers right away, if it's me, I would tend to steer clear of wide receivers and go more towards running backs. But wide receivers in general, again, they are a crapshoot. You know, I've been in leagues where I've picked up receivers for $1 in my auction draft fantasy league, and they have been in the top 5 to lead the league in receptions in a year. So, like I said, you get out of those top 3 receivers that you know are the go-to guys for the quarterbacks, and then all bets are off. So, you know, Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, AJ Green, and Odell Beckham Jr., top 4 guys. You know, and George, I agree with you. A receiving running back is probably one of your best options in PPR because, you know, in this day and age, screen passes. I will say this though, to that point, it will depend on the offense you are running. Okay, it depends on your quarterback. That is a big factor in terms of receiving running backs in PPR fantasy. But yes, I after your top 3 or 4 wide receivers, then like I said, I'd be concentrating on different positions, running backs. And I say running backs, you concentrate on running backs early because in 32 NFL teams, there are probably about 6 or 7 guys that you can say are workhorse running backs anymore. The rest of the league is running back by committee. So if you are out of that loop of running backs, it's slim pickings after that, I'll tell you.
Mm-hmm. So I appreciate that insight from our fantasy non-moron of the week. Hey, listen. So what I would say is, I think the receivers that you spoke on were obviously those are the ones that you want to grab. I mean, and I don't know you don't do it in the first round. I mean, some people do, but hey, whatever the case may be. But what I was really referring to is when you start to delve into that receiver core, whatever round that is.
Sure.
Who are the ones now? I'd ask you, and just in light of the Sammy Watkins trade, and for people that are listening to, are trying to see about, is Sammy Watkins a risk versus reward? You had someone like who is it, Robert Woods that went up there. Is it Woods that was the receiver up there?
Yes.
Okay, so he goes up there and he's to be the actual number 1 receiver in St. Louis. Obviously, that's not happening. Sammy comes up there now, but you got a guy in Goff that. I mean, over the last few years, and this is just me saying something, over the last few years, you've looked at second-year quarterbacks. I mean, you looked at Winston, you looked at Mariota, you looked at Carr. Well, they kind of opened it up. The first year, they let them learn the system, and they kind of were a little bit held back with what they were doing to air the ball out. But now you got someone like Goff who has an actual deep threat because Sam, if healthy, right? So it's a risk. Obviously, when you talk about Sammy Watkins, it's a risk. But is that someone that you may look into grabbing this year as opposed to what you done last year?
If I was to take Watkins, if I could get him later on, absolutely as a flyer. The problem is the quarterbacks you mentioned, like Jameis Winston, Derek Carr, those guys, you know, in their rookie years, they showed flashes of potential. I mean, they showed that they got it. You know, Jared Goff, to me, he hasn't shown anything. The Rams' offensive line, like Doug Martin in Tampa Bay took a lot of pressure off of Jameis Winston. Latavius Murray took a lot of pressure off Derek Carr in his rookie year. The guys now, you know, Todd Gurley, great running back. The Rams' offensive line, horrendous. Okay. Right. So, you know, you got to look at the whole picture. And I look at Jared Goff. Yeah, I mean, could Sammy Watkins open up a lot of things for the Rams offense, and could it help lanes for Todd Gurley? Absolutely. The problem is you have to be able to establish the run to make the pass work. And until the Rams offensive line comes together, I think that's going to be a hard sell. But yeah, I would take a flyer on Watkins. Would I think of him as a stud receiver? No, not even close.
So the only reason why I actually brought up receivers when I brought it up was based on I wanted to get our first conversation out of the way doing fantasy football. Receivers are an easy subject because it really, George mentioning you want to get a running back that can be a receiver as well. And I mean, there's a lot of I think there's a lot of running backs out there. And you say depending on the offense style run, sure, but you have I think there's a lot more running backs coming out of the backfield in today's football game than even 10 years ago. So I mean, and you look at some of these guys out there, you have a Darren Sproles who year in and year out is that guy that you want to have just sitting by just because he's going to do something huge every game, whether it be special teams or running back or doing something out the backfield. So.
You're absolutely correct. The only problem that I have about running backs like that or in general is that now when you're drafting a fantasy football team, are you going to start two running backs on the same team? You only get one position. You don't get the team running back. So you're limited now. You're very limited as to what you have.
No, you're right. Understood.
So,
well, good. So we're going to stop talking about receivers. What I'm going to do is we got 5 minutes left until the show, and we are going to stop on time today because we want to do that hour long, and that's it. So, David, I'm going to let you have your last word, and I'm going to let you start because we had about 4 minutes left. I'm going to let you kind of talk about whatever it is that you want to bring up besides the fact that you look absolutely ridiculous over there today. No, I'm kidding.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
I kind of enjoy the phone conversations better because we don't see each other. When I see you, I've been looking at you too long.
I know. I can't help it.
Even when you're here or I'm there, or wherever we're at, we don't stare at each other. Right now, I feel like I'm
right, because I was critiqued about certain things because I'm not really used to the television. So now that I'm trying to be more visual and give you more eye contact, and I just feel like kind of strange. You look like Mr. Hooper from Sesame Street when I'm staring at you.
I don't want to tell you who.
No, I'm sorry, not Mr. Hooper. You look like Gordon. I'm sorry.
You know what? Listen, okay. That's not
true.
But I just dug up a minute of your time. You have 30 seconds to talk. No, I'm kidding.
Well, again, I don't. My thing is, I don't really have that much to say other than I did enjoy the topics. I hope that we were able and I was able to cover the topics that you wanted to. Again, I am not knowledgeable in MMA and boxing. Salary caps, money that goes out between players and stuff like that. I think some of it's absurd and I think some of it is justified. Again, George brought up a very good point the other day when I spoke to him after our show about, the max contracts and everything. And I agree. I think basketball players trying to choose what team they play on is just horrible for organized sports altogether. It doesn't matter what sport you're in. I think doing that could destroy pro sports if it continues to happen. Again, like I said, I do this because I enjoy it, and I hope you guys get something out of it. And, me and Jeff's banter, we try to be serious. Sometimes we try to be funny. But, again, I just hope I hope that you guys get something out of it. And if there's any questions you have, anything you want to say to us, anything you want to critique about us, anything you want to do, feel free to put it on the site, watch it, listen, pass it on to your friends. And, again, I hope you enjoy it. I really do.
Outstanding. So that's good. Now I'm going to bring the screen into me. I don't need to wear the headphones right now, which are enormous. And my brother George says I look like a 70s DJ. This to be specific. And I think it's some with the shirt, a little bit with the headphones. So I'll take them off for now. Uploading this video to YouTube so you can go and subscribe. Pass that on. I'm going to see what we can do. I'm trying to use a little bit of social media a lot of this stuff is experimental. The idea is great for me and my brother. We enjoy it, and our family has enjoyed it thus far, and we're continuing to enjoy it. But as far as the subscriptions to YouTube and the people on the Facebook group, keep doing that stuff. Add people on if they want. Don't force people to come on if they don't want to listen to it, because then we have we're at about 200 folks right now, which is great. I want those 200 folks to make comments. As a matter of fact, let me even go further. right now, I think it was 9-5 as far as who was voted the moron of the week, which is fine. But and that's a whole nother conversation that David and I can get into on next week's show. But if that's 9-5, we've had 180 views of the first episode. I want 180. I want 180 responses on that thing. I want it to be truly interactive. I want it to be somewhere you and I can go back and forth with a conversation. You can tell me what we did right, what we did wrong, what you'd like to hear about, all those good things. Because I mean, to be honest with you, that's what it's about. The whole show's about. Now, Fred Meyer had made mention of last time of how can we get the glare coming from my forehead off. I have not figured out. I have a light set here, and I'm trying to avoid it. But at this point in time, I even changed up the lights, Fred, just so you're tracking. It did not help any. So, you know, you got a shiny head.
Put the light from underneath.
You got to deal with it.
Have the light go from underneath you, Jeffrey.
I don't want to let the light go. I look like I'm telling a story from a campfire thing. That's it. Hey, so anyway, hey, thank you guys so much for coming. Thanks for staying on and hanging out with us. I appreciate it. We will we'll be back on Monday, 6 o'clock, 1800 Eastern Standard Time for all of you folks on the East Coast. I don't know what time it is. And the
3
West
p.m.
Coast.
on the West Coast.
3 p.m. on the West Coast. So if you're there, hey, tell your friends, let's get on here and let's start some conversations. And to be honest with you, next week, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of, if you're interested in coming on live to the show, yeah, got it, George. But if you're interested in coming on the show, send me a message, an instant message on Facebook. And what I'll do is I'll send you a link. I can put you in the little lobby, so to speak. And when it comes time for us to have a conversation with you in the last 15 minutes of the show, we'll pop you in there, let you talk and express your opinions. And if we don't like you, I can mute you, eject you, and me and David can continue on with our rambling ignorance. So that'll be outstanding. David?
Hey.
You be good, brother, and I'll see you later.
Right.
And everybody else, thanks for stopping by.
Yep. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you Monday.
And we're out.
We're out.